Welcome to North Idaho Experience. In today's episode, Eric and I sit down with Chris Hunt. He runs Code of the West. That is an Instagram channel. We're going to talk about his time at Black Rifle Coffee Company, how his life experiences shaped his values, and how Code of the West tells the story of life and the old school wisdom that we've all been searching for. Our videographer, Austin, jumped in at the end to dish in some info from his 23-year-old experiences. And really, this is one of my favorite conversations that we've had to date. So I think you guys will thoroughly enjoy it. Remember, if you're thinking about making the move up here to North Idaho, if these stories and values that we share with you guys resonate and you're thinking about making that move, you think you might be a good match, reach out to our real estate team. Shoot us a call, text, or email. Let's get that conversation started. All right, enjoy.
Eric sounds better than everybody else.
He always does.
God. He says I changed my voice.
Thankfully, we look better than him. So
You sound like the movie guy.
It does check out. I miss my calling.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Somewhere in the depths of space, a danger lurks.
Jean-Claude Van Damme is
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
No, so
One
no,
man,
I don't.
one desire.
I don't know the Montana Knife guys. I'm like Montana Knife adjacent.
Right.
I think we know people that know them, which is cool. So
Yeah, they were around a lot when I was at Black
that
Rifle.
son of a bitch is like a scalpel, though. Like, you don't play around with that knife.
Yeah. I view that like as the Toyota Tacoma of knives. Like, because it's like not flashy, but it just
Does its job.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
cuts very well.
Yeah.
But they're expensive, and it's like I almost don't want to use it too often.
Yeah.
What did I cut something up with that? Might have been a turkey.
Where
Can't
did we
remember.
get that knife that Mike got for us? Because that one's legit too. That knife company.
Oh, that's out of the East Coast. Yeah,
Yeah.
a client of ours gave us some really cool survival knives. I can't remember the name.
The brand.
Yeah,
They're cool though.
That was cool. That was one of the cooler gifts a client. No one's ever given me a gun.
Not Winkler. Is it?
No,
Oh, okay.
no.
I didn't get a whole gun. I got an upper and a lower.
Okay.
And then made it really cool.
Pretty close.
That was pretty cool. That was
Yeah. I'm
cool.
just
Mike, Kathy, thank you.
I'm jealous because someone gifted Eric a gun.
Parts of one.
Yeah,
Yes.
apparently parts of one. Someone gifted
For full
Dave
disclosure.
a full gun, a very nice gun.
John got a gun.
John got a gun.
Yes. And we bring them in and show them to Seth all the time.
Yeah, I'm
just
like,
so he
that's
can-
cool. I'm really happy for you guys.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Really happy
I was
for you
happy
guys.
for me too. That's why I wanted to share it with my friend.
Oh, man. So Chris and I did not meet in the sauna. I need to say that.
As disappointing as that is to say.
because most dudes I meet in the sauna, that sounds terrible, but we did not. We met at
It was a rest stop, actually.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Usually, so it was a lower class type of. Yeah. All right.
It was muggy.
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
there
nice.
I was in the stall, and this foot comes underneath, and
Tapping.
what else do I do? But do I tap? I tap.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm like, my man.
That's how we met.
All of a sudden, I'm thinking you're in politics. I don't know anything about you, but
No.
based on the story that you're
I mean, I did grow up in Boise,
guessing.
Yeah,
so
there we go.
boys of Boise.
Hey, I will say there's some funky stuff that goes on behind the Flying J. So if you tell me you met behind the Flying J over there at Post Falls, man.
I have standards.
Yeah. All right. Good.
Not a lot lizard.
Oh, God. I learned that lesson the hard way as a newer deputy, and there was like a rocking van, and I went and knocked on it at like 1:30 in the morning. Yeah.
You got a suspension problem?
Oh,
What do you suppose is going on in here?
he did not. Now let's just say they were leaking fluids though. That they needed some that needed to be addressed.
Was this like
There's
male,
medication
female?
for it.
No, it
Male,
was
male.
not. It was yeah.
Describe the smell to me when you open the door.
Oh, dude, why do you have to bring that up? Like that's something that you can't unsmell, right?
The 1970s.
Yes. Get shame and pennies.
Yeah.
Well, we can see the
my
direction that this one's going
my
so
goodness.
far.
So just for clarity,
Yeah.
I have an Instagram that's all about old school frontier wisdom from grandpas and dads, and it's Mr. Rogers, Paul Harvey. So this has already started on the wrong foot for me.
Good.
Completely.
I enjoy that. Sounds amazing.
Yeah, you just made me realize you two have been in the same room together and you did not know it.
When?
Jeff Weir's party.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We were there.
Wait, what? Wizard staff?
No, he wasn't there for
Okay.
the Wizard stuff.
Okay.
I was there. I was there for the Wizard
Okay.
stuff. It was the unveiling of the life size,
The big bronze.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. So y'all partied together.
That's right.
Well, if
little
you,
bit.
by party you mean stand in the corner and drink non-alcoholic beer with Chuck, then yes.
It was getting down.
Yeah.
Definitely getting
Yeah.
down.
It was
cool.
tricky though. I don't know if you intentionally did because they had the NA beer mixed in with the regular beer. So
Sometimes, I mean, so the first time Wizard Staff night, I didn't.
it's because of the Wizard
Yeah,
Staff.
and
night.
I want to be careful here. I did not drink a Wizard Staff, but I also live like an hour and change away, and so I was like, I basically just have my back of my Tacoma set up for situations, and so I just slept in the back of my truck that night.
Smart.
But the night of the bronze
at the Flying J.
at the Flying J,
Nice.
actually. My dad's a truck driver, so I have I can tell you like all the best truck stops. But I took my mom to that the bronze unveiling, and so it wasn't really getting rowdy. I don't really drink anymore either. Like I know Dave was just in here talking about how he's like, I had whiskey, and it's like, man, I probably drank 3 people's worth of whiskey in my 20s and mid 30s. So like I'm just kind of like you have to know how crazy I was to know how chill I am now, kind of thing.
Right.
I think you're in the right room for that.
Yes.
Eric and I talk about this a lot.
Yeah.
We would have got along great back in the day.
I used to be cool.
I just don't recover the way that's what gets me, man. Like you tell yourself like you get those first couple and it hits just right and you're like, oh, I know that feeling. It's like this could go a couple different directions and I could end up with my pants off.
Yep.
Behind the truck stop.
That damn van again.
Yeah.
I took a week off. I took a week off drinking while you were in Hawaii, Eric.
Did you?
Yeah, I was like, I'm just gonna be done for a bit. I bought a bunch of NA beers, which they have some pretty good ones.
Yeah.
these days. Like I drank one of
The
those.
Guinness
and I'm
ones
like,
are
it
actually really good.
I have not had that. I had
They taste just like Guinness.
Sierra Nevada makes a good mixture.
Are you
Some
back?
IPAs.
You're back on the wagon now?
No, yeah. So I was gonna
Yeah,
do a month
nothing but
off.
straight vodka.
Yes.
I was gonna
Good.
do a month off, and then life gets at you.
that's right.
And here we are, back to it.
Yeah, but I don't even know if you can call what you do drinking because I went to your house and you handed me a beer and it was a hard kombucha.
Oh, dude.
All right, a hard I've never even is like fermented shit with booze in it somehow. Like I don't. It was actually kind of tasty. You made me question
A little
myself.
sour, but
Yeah.
dude, you're
Don't worry, bro. It's healthy.
Yeah,
It is.
Yeah,
You're
Yeah.
detoxing while you're retoxing. Okay, like there's a science to this.
You're gonna shit your brains out later.
that like-
it's fine.
Is that like I can eat 4 burritos and drink a Diet Coke and it cancels out?
Yes,
Is that how that works?
exactly the same concept.
All right,
Maths.
good.
Yeah.
Science.
totally-
Trust the science.
Yeah.
The maths.
I saw an influencer say that was the way it worked.
Yes. And I saw it on the internet. And
Yeah.
if it's on the internet, it has to
There
be
was a
true.
very authoritative person that was very convincing. Therefore, I was convinced.
Yes, isn't that right there is a microcosm of our entire society right now.
He seems really convicted, so probably true.
Yeah, I 100% subscribe
Yeah,
to that.
yeah.
The masks.
No one would lie.
No, those masks are 100% viable and protect you.
Yep.
Sorry, did I go there?
Yeah,
I did.
no, we
I
always
did.
do, one way or another.
The pandemic.
You mentioned your Instagram,
Right.
Code of the West.
Yeah. So, sorry.
Did you meet Big John when you? Sorry.
You have a
When
Big John?
We got a Big John.
God, everybody's got a
No,
Big
he's a
John.
sad. Ours is bigger.
Yeah, it's true.
I know a Big John who's like 6'10".
Fuck.
Yeah. He's in Ohio, though, so I can't prove it. But anyways, Big John.
Fair.
Ours is far more
I
attractive.
think Big John might be a fan of what you do. So if
Okay.
he's still in the other room when we go out there, like,
Bring him in.
yeah, we'll
Yeah.
we'll
Just-
like
just get
fanboy him
Big
out a little
John.
bit.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll just have him jump in.
Yeah,
for a
just
minute.
bring Big John.
Yeah, we should.
I want to
just
see. I want to
text
see
him.
how big your John is.
Austin, can you text
Find
John?
$1 for every time I
Yeah.
heard that.
Can you text John and tell him Chris from Code of the West is here?
It's gonna be really awkward if he's like, "What's Code of the West?"
It's possible.
We'll air that. We
He's
will
like
absolutely.
really stoked on what you do. He's like, "Oh, yeah, that's
Who are
cool,
you?
man. What do you
What
got
do
an
you
Instagram?"
Yeah.
Yeah, I got an Instagram.
You do. Yeah.
Yeah.
How the hell did you get into that?
Well, as I talked to you before about, I used to work at Black Rifle as the art director.
Here I am drinking a Black Rifle energy drink.
Yep. Not planned.
Did you do this art, this flying elk?
That one I think is Jonathan Griswold or
Okay.
Josh Rollerson. I can't remember. I did the first one.
Okay.
But that they did that after I left, and so they still use a lot of my art for stuff because we just made a lot of art.
So is that what you do? Are you an artist?
I used to be, but I wouldn't even say I'm an artist. Like, and that's not some sort of hello. That's not some sort of like. It's more like I don't. When someone's like, I'm an artist, whatever that means, I'm the opposite of it. I'm not curing cancer, and I think that there is something to be said about being able to tell stories and create things that people get excited about. But as you'll probably find through the course of this conversation, my brain's a little different than most people's. And so to me, it's just solving creative problems. That's like how I see it. I've got more of an engineer's mind, and I was raised around truck drivers and construction workers and cowboys. And like, I love doing that stuff, but it's just like hanging drywall to me, like, which I also find interesting and hard and challenging. So to answer your question, how did I get into Code of the West? Well, I was at Black Rifle. I was, as the art director, leading into them going public. It basically meant that I touched everything. Like, I touched anything that could possibly have like an art asset or copy. And I was riding shotgun with Evan, who's the founder. And then, to a lesser degree, they were still around, like Matt and Logan and JT and those guys. But Evan and I were like, shotgun for about a year, and just kind of saw the inner workings of how a direct-to-consumer company drove creative and used the internet, and a lot of things that had been sort of mysterious to me I just had never taken the time to look into it. And then once it became my job to kind of understand more about social media, this is also during the pandemic, so had some time on my hands, even though I worked like 70 hours a week at Black Rifle. And so while I was there, this is not a knock on Black Rifle at all, but like, I was like, I would want to do this, but I want to do it in a different way. Because I started seeing, used to be a sleight of hand magician. And
of course you did.
Yeah, of course I did. And one of the things the reason why this is relevant is when you start learning about magic, you realize like, oh, this isn't that hard. Like, there's just like a process to it. And then it's sort of the performance of it. And then you start seeing like how people use that. Like, so like pickpocketing, for instance, like you could do a magic trick where I put something in your pocket and you don't realize it. I'm like, oh, hey, what's your card? Oh, it's in your pocket. Blah. Yeah. Same principle as pickpocketing, just the other way. So like, if you know how to force something onto somebody, you know how to pull something out as well. And so that's kind of how it felt like looking at social media, where I'm like, oh, so if you just get everybody pissed off and like emotionally reacting, you get the algorithm churning, and then you go up the ranking. And then if you step out and extrapolate that from sort of a meta perspective, the incentive for everybody is just to be angry and getting everybody worked up all the time. And then if you look at that, you're like, oh, might be why we're in the situation we're in.
Mainstream media follows suit.
Well, yeah, everybody. I mean, people were like, oh, like, I don't know why I was about to go into a voice there, but like, muckraking's not new.
Yeah,
that's right. An old thing. We had like a window of time in the mid 20th century where people were like, hey, maybe we should be like above board. And like take, have some integrity with journalism. And they're like, yeah, we'll do that. Here's a Pulitzer. Then it's like, oh man, we're losing money.
Piss everybody off. Get the pitchforks.
Yeah. And so I had always wanted to try to build something that was an intersection of storytelling and art and the things that I'd grown up with, because I grew up in this really weird way. I rode on a truck every summer with my dad from like 3 to about 10. And so I saw like everything by the time I was like 8. I'd hit like every 48 continental state.
Wow.
And had almost been kidnapped in New Jersey, saw a guy dying at the Petro Iron Skillet like buffet because he was choking on something, like just weird stuff. So like summertime would be over and I'd go back to elementary school, and people like, teacher would be like, what'd you do this summer? And I'd be like, I went to Six Flags. I went to the Wisconsin Dells. I'd be like, I watched a man's soul leave his body at the Petro Iron Skillet buffet. So it was different. And so I looked at what Black Rifle was doing, just strictly to just sort of drive sales. And I was like, what if I took that and just sort of like took the magic trick aspect of it, and I also kind of inadvertently saw where things were going, where I'm like, I think storytelling is going to come back into play here. I think we're going to get past this whole like cool guys doing cool things, buy our cool product, like
guns and girls in bikinis, man.
I said that so many times. I said it at Black Rifle, where it's just like, again, not a knock on anybody, but it's like we're in our 40s now. When I was there still, like, And that's just the Black Rifle. I'm just saying culture in general. I think that people, after like 15 years of like the same thing are going to go, okay, like it's cool. You got something else now?
It's why it's called a trend.
Yeah. Right. But the trend was like a decade and a half of just like throw spaghetti against the wall and see what sticks, and then complain about being shadow banned if your shit sucks. That's an oversimplification, and I know people do get like hit for community stuff, like for guns and knives and weird stuff, but a lot of it too is just like not trying and then being like, why isn't anything working? And so long way around to say that I was like, I'm just going to start Code of the West. I'm like, it's as goober head of a way as I could do it, because like the thesis was I'm going to do everything the opposite of what you're supposed to do for social media, which is slow everything down, make it really wordy, and make it earnest.
That's a really interesting take, and I don't want to interrupt you. But
please do. I'm tired of hearing myself talk.
No. But I almost saw a divergence, and I don't know if you had any impact on this, because Black Rifle, it was funny and it was cool, right? And that attracted a lot on the front end. But there was a couple videos they did later that kind of went off script from what they traditionally done, and those were some of the most impactful, where they were telling the story, and he's with his buddy this whole time, and then you realize by the end of it, his buddy had passed away, and he's standing in front of his headstone, which that was storytelling. That was like, okay, that's deeper. The first thing you're talking about might get somebody in the door, but what keeps them there?
Yeah.
And it's content of character, and what's your mission, and what's your, what are you about?
Yeah, I can't claim that being me, because that happened not long after I left, or it was in process when I was there before I left. But I certainly think that a lot of the conversations I was having with people, again, I'm not the impetus behind it, but it's like we're all kind of thinking that. Yeah. And Evan especially. It's weird when you're in a big machine, like, and so I don't want to spill the tea on Black Rifle or just make it about Black Rifle, but it's like it's weird to be sitting next to somebody that is being like eviscerated online for like events that you were present for example, like, or having the New York Times walk through your art department and like look at what you're doing and be like, this is weird. Like, because normally you're removed from things. And so as far as the storytelling aspect goes, I think what's really stressful and hard when you get something going is it's that sort of confirmation bias of like, well, this worked. We did this 5 years ago. This worked, and it's uncomfortable. I don't know if I know Dave was showing me the video that you guys made that was sort of the take on The Office, but which it was funny. Like, but a lot of people, especially when you have a lot of eyeballs and you make money off of eyeballs, it becomes a lot scarier and uncomfortable to try something new, and so. Yeah, I don't know where I'm going with that, but like, that's so I just embraced the suck as far as Code of the West goes, and it's just like I'm just gonna live in that space, basically.
Do you get any haters on there? I don't know how you would.
Every once in a while, but like what's funny is that like I'll end up just talking to them on DMs, and everybody ends up saying sorry.
We've had that exact thing, because we get a lot of hate on our YouTube channel. It's either people that don't want more people moving here, or we're too conservative or not conservative.
I tell everybody I live in Western Montana.
But we get a lot of that, and most of the time, if we take the time to engage them, through a long email or something, they'll come around.
Well, I think this goes back to my thesis about Code of the West and kind of what I'm trying to do, which is that like I don't think people realize how manipulated we all are. And because it's like, you don't act that way in real life because you're going to get punched in the face. Like, and so, yeah, it takes patience and being a more mature person or emotionally centered person, however you want to say that. But like, I'm a very big proponent of, show, don't tell. Even though we're talking about a text conversation for the most part, it's like, if I'm saying to everybody, slow down, don't just react, and I'm going like hot take, shit talk, like on my part, well, then I'm not living by the Code of the West. Like I'm not embodying what I'm trying to embody. And I just think that we're all spun up and don't realize it. And that's like my big fear with AI next.
It's going to get worse, right?
I think so.
It's way easier to rage bait someone.
Oh yeah,
it's super
when
easy.
You can add these visuals in that are completely made up. I mean,
that's the magic trick. That's what I'm saying. It's like knowing. It's like being able to see and go, oh, it's the lowest hanging fruit, and for some reason, we're just kind of blind to it. And you know, I don't want to like start being like, you know, hot takes on certain people, but it's just like you can kind of watch even like larger pundits or, you know, thought leaders kind of like go left all of a sudden.
Yes.
Like, and you're like, why? Oh, you're making a lot of money on YouTube. That's why. Okay.
But at first you're like, man, it really resonates.
Yeah.
Right? You're genuine and real and grounded, and that's what people liked.
Yeah.
It reminds me of what you're talking about, and I was waiting for you to say something like that on Black Rifle, which is interesting, where it's like you start making so much money that you don't want to diverge from this game plan, right? But there's all this pressure to go out and be different and be something. It's reminds me of when what you're talking about with Code of the West. And this is going to be a weird relation, but I promise I'll get there. But it's like there's been a sign up for Notre Dame football that they touch every time they leave, play like a champion today. That's their mission statement. Whatever your mission statement is that's grounding you and telling you to be genuine, I think it would do you well to tap that banner every day. Get up and read it. Hey, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? And at the end of the day, is the decision that I'm making in alignment with why I started this in the first place? 9 times out of 10, it's going to be more beneficial, maybe not in the short term, but in the long run, if you stay true to whatever that original intention was.
But you gotta operationalize that as a process, like you said.
Right.
Like if you're just going off of vibes and be like, I should probably tap that every day. It's like, no, you got to figure out how to tap that every day.
Yeah.
Man, I keep saying things that just as soon as I say them,
Refer back to how we met.
All of a sudden, we just got into marriage counseling.
Yeah.
You got to tap that every day.
Yeah.
All right, you got to go back, stay grounded. Yeah,
to that, but like you're saying though, it's like a mission statement is hollow and vapid unless it's powerful if you can operationalize it.
Yeah.
But most of the time, it's just like, oh man, like,
especially with AI.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, write me a mission statement for my business, and it'll
I need some guiding principles now, bro.
Yes, it'll poop out this thing that absolutely has nothing to do with you. Sit your ass down and write your own. What is truly valuable to you? Take the time to engage your brain and say, this is something that I can make decisions based on. This is our mission set.
Well, and that's what, sir, I'll throw this out one last second. Code of the West is an epistemology. That's what it is and what it serves, meaning that like it is not just like, hey, be nice to everybody, golden rule. It's part of it. But an epistemology is a system of thinking, of how you think. And so it's not enough to just, like you said, get the vibes, get AI. I would say even it's not enough to just write it down, because it's like you're not going to get it on the first pass. Like there's got to be this first principles thinking, this, you know, scientific method or whatever it is that you go through, like that has to be consistent. Because if you're not consistent with whatever that system is, then it's just it's kind of in the wind every time.
You got to live it.
It's hugely valuable. I mean, we're really fortunate in our business in that we have each other to bounce. We bounce things off of each other.
Yeah.
You know, we can always measure it against the whatever metric we've created, like integrity always before money, right? That's a big one for us, especially in real estate. That's not always common. And we don't make money. We don't really make money on the social media side of it. You know, I wanted to touch on that too, because we've been spanked by YouTube before. But we are of the mindset we will be unapologetically truthful and unapologetically ourselves. I think unapologetic is a Black Rifle thing, so I'm saying that.
I don't think they have.
You might have come up with that.
No, I don't think that they have a trademark on being unapologetic.
Look, we've gotten a little nervous about words here in the last month or so.
We're going through a few things. But that's the metric we always balance it off of, and just being truthful.
Yeah.
And our goal is not necessarily to grow our presence on social media. I'll be truthful here. We use this as a vetting platform to find clients. We inform people about the culture in North Idaho so they can make an informed decision when they're.
Well, I'd even go further though and say, like, how do you define integrity, and then how do you define the operational process of integrity or truthfulness?
Good question. I gotta admit, I think it's a bit of a feeling at this point,
which I think is the dangerous thing.
Yes. Yes. How do we define that? Because then it's a movable goalpost at that point. I don't know that we have anything, written in stone.
Man, concepts are.
But we check each other frequently.
From a business standpoint, no transaction is worth our reputation. I love living in North Idaho because I absolutely believe that you can't outrun a bad reputation. We're still too small and we're still too grounded, and relationships are still this, and it's still a handshake.
Keep your word. Live
Yes,
with courage.
absolutely. Yeah, but truly, if somebody blows you up with their family and friends, man, that's a hard one to survive in this community.
Yeah, but look at what canceling is, though, too. I mean, like it's still a grassroots model that you're looking at, where it's like it just emergently happens, where someone's like, "Yo, this dude is not who he says he is." I mean, I know you guys are like LEO, former LEO, and veterans in some cases. Like, there's no better community on the internet, I think, as far as like vetting goes, and like being like, this person is not who they say they are, than veterans.
Right.
Like I get that there's like an actual incentive to like be like, yo, this person's like making money off of like stuff that they didn't do, or they're dangerous. But it's like, there's like guys that like, that's all they do.
Right.
You know, like, and that spreads. That like, that might be slow, might be fast, but I think what you're saying, regardless of whether you're in a local community or not, I hope you are, but like I think it plays both ways. It's the same thing. Your reputation should mean something, and it does mean something.
Yeah.
There's also a level of courage involved in being unapologetically yourself, right?
Yeah.
Like, we've leaned, people in real estate be like, oh, don't be political, don't do this. And it's like, fuck it, we're gonna lean into that because it's what we believe. And it's not the kind of courage of like running into a gunfight. It's different, but
and it's also not saying
there.
like you're like trying to like go and like shit post on somebody.
No.
You're just like, here's who I am. Not going to hide it.
For example, I've been getting emails from the current assessor in Kootenai County because we did a podcast with his political opponent, and he's sending me threatening emails about libel and defamation, and I'm like, eat a dick, dude. Like, bring it. That's where I'm at. I'm tired of this shit, and like, we're just gonna, we didn't say anything about him at all.
Yeah.
Other than facts.
Yeah.
And his opponent may have, but that's not me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to be threatened like that. Like, we just want to bring the truth out. And and if you can't hear that, especially as an elected official, you're in the wrong business.
Yeah.
No,
That was a little soapbox. I'm sorry.
No, dude,
I hope he hears that.
Soapy.
Yeah, no, but it's totally understandable. And like I said, what we try to do is bring in a forum where people can talk kind of unapologetically and be candid here. It's very conversational.
Yeah.
We want to learn what you're all about in here. And what I value is when I meet people, like, podcast is a lot of fun because we don't have to change who we are, even though my voice changed. I might do that on purpose. Other than that, what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
Like truly, when you meet us in person with us,
talk.
No,
we don't shit talk on people. We will tell the truth. But then that's where that courage comes in to be able to stand up and tell the truth, regardless of what comes in. We're taking a different route with our social media. That is just pure entertainment and fun.
Yeah.
Because who doesn't like to have fun? Like,
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
we definitely do.
Austin kills it on that.
So with Go to the West, what motivated, was that entire experience part of what motivated it?
Meaning Black Rifle or?
Yeah.
It's funny because it wasn't like it was a call and receive thing where I'm like, I've got to do this. It was more of like it had been long simmering for me, this idea or this notion of like, I gotta find a way to create a Chris-shaped box because there's just no box I can seem to find or wander into that allows me to be all the parts of me at the same time.
That's the artist in you.
Yeah, maybe.
Right?
That's what I was just
have you ever read
thinking.
the War of Art?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
So
Pressfield.
the muse, man, is coming down and giving you this inspiration to do something, and maybe you didn't know what it was at the time, and I don't know if you started it with the intent to make it huge. It got there. But maybe that it got there because you didn't have that intent.
Yeah.
And it's honest.
I mean, and just to push back a little bit, I think I view it more as like the muse thing. I think is bullshit.
Yeah.
Completely. I think that there's, again, you're going to hear me say it a lot. Like, it's a process and it's a learned skill for me. I think I might have a predisposition towards certain types of things, but to me, that's like saying that like some people can just go out and arrange and just know how to just send it down, like, and just be racing with a gun. Like it's just, you got to practice. It's muscle memory, it's consistency, it's showing up. And
I agree with that. But I still think you're tapping into something. So I write poetry.
Okay.
But, I I don't write it all the time.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm just sitting there. I get up early and I have my hour of time. And sometimes I'm sitting there and shit will just like, there'll be a nagging thought.
Yeah. That I don't disagree with.
Like, and I feel like that for me, that is the muse coming down.
Sure. I guess where my pushback comes into it is from like the perspective of like, if you're going to do it beyond a hobby, like that I honestly, though, I think creative thoughts or inspiration a lot of times is just the collation of experiences, acquired data, and then sort of filtered through a subjective viewpoint. And so like, I mean, to the point that I've like actually operationalized this within an AI system that I built just to see if I could do it. I think that a lot of, I mean, don't get me wrong, like, you know, listening to a song or like having a good conversation with somebody, like you might go like, oh man, like, but again, I think of it as like, I think there's a lot of truth in how people talk about the muse. Like, I don't disagree with that at all. I think it's more though, it's like people who are like, I don't think we went to the moon. Man, that's a separate conversation. It's a separate conversation. But my biggest issue with that is basically it's like what you're saying is I don't think that we're capable of doing this.
Yep.
That's more like my issue with it. And so with the muse, what I don't like about it is that it's like, for one, it makes it seem like you got to find it, you got to hope that it comes to you.
Okay.
Which is not like, I don't know anybody who like frames for a living or does excavation that wakes up in the morning and goes, man, I really hope the caterpillar gods show up and I actually want to go out and get that excavator running. And I hope I dig a good hole today.
You're right. Like, if you don't put the work into it, it's not going to happen. Like an experience, 100%. Because if you sit on your couch your entire life and do nothing, the muse isn't going to come down and drop some amazing shit into your lap, right? You have to go out and live life and experience things. A lot of times an idea will come to me while I'm driving around or something.
Oh yeah, I drive.
Or something that annoys me.
Drive time's the best,
right? Like I wrote a poem about the white crosses in Montana on the side of the road where every fatal has happened because I was driving through Montana multiple times and I'm like, fuck, there's a white cross. Fuck, and I'm a trooper, right? So I see that shit.
Yeah,
like, that's a dead body. Fuck, there's a lot of dead bodies in Montana, right? And it's probably
on the
like
side
that
of the road
everywhere, but not, you know. Montana just does it different, so you see it.
Yeah.
And then I start telling my wife about it, and then I regretted telling my wife about it because she starts seeing them. So I'm like, this bothers me. So I wrote a poem about it. Turned out pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it's, I'm going to butcher the quote, but it's Ralph Waldo Emerson. He said, fate is not a matter of chance, it's a matter of choice. It's not something to be... that just happens. It's something that you have to go out and seek. And it's not like you can float through the lazy river of life and all of a sudden these motivating things are going to... It's a product of all the process. Everything that you've gone through before in your life experience.
I've talked to my 18-year-old about this, right? Like you're not going to have... You live your life so you'll have some really cool stories and experiences to reflect back on because that's where the magic happens.
Well, I mean, like as an example, I don't think everybody needs to be a method actor, but like when I was making, I used to write and draw comic books before I did anything at Black Rifle. That was like my dream as a kid. And one of my goal was to write and draw a comic book start to finish, you know, like, cause usually it's kind of bifurcated. There's like different people doing different parts and I'll make this as concise as possible. My comic was basically like, if you could take Ernest Hemingway and Indiana Jones and John McClane and slam them together in 1920s Paris. Character. His name is Francis Carver. And, you know, I'd been like in scraps as a kid, but I had like, when my stepdad showed up, shout out to Dan Swig, he would drive me to school in the morning and it'd just be silence. And Dan's like an old cowboy, general contractor. He'd be silent. He'd be driving and I'd be sitting there and he'd be like, if you're ever in a headlock, take the heel of your boot, smash it down on the arch of their foot, break it, they'll let go. And he just go back to driving. Like
I'm feeling like he might have been some inspiration for Code of the West.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I mean a huge part. And so like I had this like institutional knowledge from Dan about how to fight dirty, and I wanted to do this graphic novel that was like, you know, I mean Francis's backstory is that he's like a Belleau Wood Marine, and I had friends that were in Fallujah, and you know I grew up with a World War II Marine lieutenant down the street. I knew enough to know that like I should do this the right way. Be careful. Even though it wasn't the bulk of the story, it was a part of the story. And I realized, like, I don't know how to draw a fight because I've never been in a fight. Hard smash to like 8 months of me learning how to like basically street fight from a tiny albino guy with one eye. And I got into like Fairbane and all this stuff from like, you know, the commando, like the World War II, like basically like training at Camp X and all that stuff. And like I got my nose smashed by a dude from Mexico who like just kneed me in the fucking face. Like
that'll do it.
That was the first time that like I hadn't even learned anything yet. And Kyle, the little albino, was like, fight this dude. And I was like, what? And this dude had like a mangled like right leg because he'd been like in a fight and got hit by a car and like it just in Mexico City. And I was just like, well, I shouldn't kick his leg. That dude taught me I should have kicked his fucking leg first. And so at one point, I mean, he just was fast and like back of the head, knee to the face, seeing stars. And Kyle's down there. He's like, get back up and beat the fuck out of that dude. And I'm like, I draw comics, but I'd obviously done it to myself. The reason why I'm bringing this up is that like, then I realized like, oh, everybody loses fights. Like, you know, it's not necessarily this John Wick. If I want to tell a story about a fight and I want to show a fight, it's not about necessarily like, well, what's the right move? What's this?
Yeah.
It's more like, oh shit, you're gassed out after a minute of trying to survive.
It's never clean, dude.
It's never clean. It's super awkward. So if I want to tell a story about a fight, I had to know how, again, like, I mean, I still haven't like been in a situation where I'm like, I'm going to possibly die. Like, but I've definitely been in a number of situations now where I'm like, I'm definitely going to get hurt. And it changed how I told the story. So that's a weird way to kind of bring full circle what we're talking about, where it's like, I don't think that the muse would have ever given me that.
No.
You know?
No.
Like,
it's a combination, right? It's a combination of, I think, I don't know if you're tapping into a parallel universe. I don't know.
I could go down that rabbit hole with
right?
you. Like that strangely, I'm like, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, that makes sense, right?
Yeah. But a fairy? Nah.
Yeah, like I don't know how I picture it.
Yeah.
I picture like, yeah, you're tapping into, you know, I feel like all things
I will agree with you
connected.
that there's something.
Okay.
Like I'm agnostic about it though.
But I also agree with you that you need to combine that with life experience and
have a lot of experience.
And effort, right? Like you just can't sit there and let it happen.
Yeah.
You have to work towards it.
Yeah.
Because that's the difference between being an amateur and a pro, right?
Oh yeah.
I've had this conversation with my wife. Like even when I started real estate, it was like, are you dabbling in this or are you all in?
Yeah.
And whatever you do, you should be all in because people can, whether they can see it or they can just sense it, they know.
Yeah.
If you're an amateur and you're just doing it for a hobby.
Don't half-ass, full-ass one thing.
Full
all
ass,
right?
yeah.
Full-ass that
Well, and
one
I will
thing.
say this to bring it back to the internet thing. This is also, I think, we were joking about like, well, he sounds confident. The dangerous thing that I've seen, and like again, not going to be specific or say names, but I've been in a lot of crazy rooms with a lot of like different types of people. And I have realized, man, you can do anything if you convince yourself and you like basically are getting high on your own supply, like, which scares the shit out of me, but also like makes me kind of go like, man, what am I doing wrong? Cause like I know people who should not have been running certain things, or like you would not want to rely on your livelihood for them. Yet somehow they just sort of confidently just said, yeah, I can do that.
You wouldn't trust them with a potato gun, and they're running a
I've known people like that in my life. I don't think I'm like that necessarily.
No, I'm not saying. Yeah,
but
listen, you're a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Like,
no, I've known people like that. And you look at them, you're like, yeah, you should not succeed. But
how did you do it?
I don't want to say they're too dumb to not know they can't do it.
Yeah,
but there's something in them.
There's something admirable about it, but there's also
is,
something kind of sociopathic about it as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
I firmly believe, as I've gotten a little bit older, my ability to deduce and like see through that.
Yeah.
Try to get to what that actual like core mission is or what their intent is. You know, having those couple of questions, man, that is going to be increasingly valuable. And I think that skill set, if you see it as dangerous now, I think it's only going to get even more so.
Yeah.
I told my son the other day, I said, you know, what's going to be really, really valuable is the ability to have interpersonal skills and speak publicly. Everybody can now write a very clear, concise, professional email.
Yeah,
because they
and
aren't
not
writing.
Understand it.
Exactly, but everybody can write it.
Yeah.
Everybody can write a speech and read it off paper, but how are you in front of groups?
I feel like I'm taking a different approach at this. I think it's a superpower for people to be able to do that. Like I did construction after college. I worked with this dude, Billy, former meth addict.
Shout out to Billy.
Billy.
What's up, Billy?
He could fucking get anything done. The boss would be like, I need you to whatever the fuck. And
he just
he'd be like,
blitzkrieg it.
Get her done.
Get that
Get her done.
Panzer chocolate
He would always say
going.
that, get her done, and fucking he would just go do it. Like he was too dumb to realize that he couldn't do that thing.
Yeah.
And he'd fucking do it. And it's
He figured out.
It's a superpower. I think,
Yeah.
you know, some of us get too analytical and are like, we start analyzing all the fucking problems, and it's like, I can't pull this off.
Yeah.
A guy like Billy's like, fuck it, let's get her done.
I think the goal of most things is to find balance, but particularly with what you're describing there, where it's like kind of goes back to what Jeff was talking about, you know, at that men's group, you know, I think yesterday or maybe the one before, where it's like you can sit around and like analyze stuff and never do anything. Mm-hmm. Likewise, you could be Billy and just be like, you know, in the middle of some shit and be like, I'm 10 feet up on a ladder and I have no plan B here, you know?
Right.
Like there's actually one of the things I loved about Black Rifle was because so many of the people who were in management were all like tier 1 guys. Everything was an op order. Like we just wrote op orders for everything. I did for the art department. Like, and so it was just like, it was very clear. Here's what was analyzed. Here's what we determined is like at the most minimum viable, you know, possible way of proceeding. And here's what we think is going to happen. And here's the timeline or whatever, you know, and that I liked because it required us to slow down. You had to think about things, but then it was also very clear, like, you know, if I could write 5 pages about what I wanted to do, I had to put it in like a paragraph and be like, this is what the plan is. Mm-hmm. And so I learned a lot. And to go back to the Code of the West thing and how you're like, I still feel like I still haven't answered your question from a half hour ago. Like, I just is like, oh, I've thought about this for like 20 years. I'm just going to like make my paragraph and start doing it basically. And that's why I started it. It wasn't any sort of like response to Black Rifle. It was confidence. I mean, like, dude, riding shotgun with Evan Hafer into a IPO is, and I've said this to him, so this isn't anything secret. It's like, that's like paying for, you know, a master's degree in business school with like an agent of chaos, like as your professor. Like it, by the time 2022 rolled around, I was like, I can do anything.
Right.
Like,
once you see it, right? Yeah.
And what I had to do was a part of it. Yeah. Like, I mean, like we did, I love my time at Black Rifle because I don't think that I did like trail maintenance at one point. Like all my friends did it for a long time, but they made me go out and do a hitch at one point. And this is like full on old school crosscut saw, Pulaski, you know, working 15-hour days, going up and down mountains in the Cascades. I have never done anything so physically hard in my life. Like they were like mountain goats, but like I grew up, like I said, doing construction, working on trucks. I mean, I was basically like a Charles Dickens character. Like it was just doing stuff since I was like 5. And they're like, and so I'm like, oh, it's not that hard. I can hike, I can work and saw. They're like, nah, bro, it's going to be the hardest thing you've ever done. And then at the end of it, you're going to be like, that was the greatest thing you've ever done. And when I was doing it, I was like, oh fuck. Like I remember there was a day like halfway through it where this dude like walked by with like a high and tight, you know, wearing silkies, and he's got his kids walking with him, and I just like, that's a Marine. And it was like August, and I mean we looked beat up. We looked like Grapes of Wrath characters, you know, carrying, you know, all this steel tools and everything. And this guy like went down the trail, and then he came back and he's like, hey man, like, have some Jolly Ranchers. Like, I know this sucks, like, but this will make your mouth wet. And it was like my entire value system had gotten rewired in like 2 weeks, because I was like crying because this guy gave me an apple sour Jolly Rancher, because I was like, this is all I need. It's all I need right now.
Right.
Like, and then got through it, got done, drank a lot of bourbon that first night.
Yeah.
And was like, okay, yeah, I can do anything now.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just I've slept outside. It's like I've slept outside after, working 16-hour days and, physically doing something I didn't think I could do, and like watching a ridgeline catch on fire, and talk to my friend about like, what are we going to do if there's a wildfire and we're 30 miles in the backcountry? And it's like, and calmly have that conversation, while smoking our last cigarettes, like underneath a tree. It's like, okay, so tell me what's so difficult about responding to some emails or a Slack. And that was where I got along with everybody at Black Rifle, because everybody I worked with had like done what you guys had done. Like, were like, without telling anybody stories for them, it's just like real consequential stuff,
right?
Like actual real consequences.
Do you think the youth of today are missing out on that? It feels like it's harder to find.
I think I have a lot of thoughts on this, but like So I get a lot of messages from young people on, which I love saying that now as a 41-year-old guy, like young people. I think that we as millennials, I count myself as like an elder millennial, like I'm more like closer to Gen X, but I think that I'm not saying us individually, but like I think as a generation, we kind of failed like Gen Z and Alpha to some degree. Like, I think that staring into the mirror of the phone, for one, or handing them that really early, has them positioned in a way where they don't know the way forward, but they know that something's wrong.
Yeah.
That's the overwhelming thing that I get from a lot of people in their early 20s, is that like we missed something.
Well, so what's your advice to these people? Like 18-year-old guy reaches out to you. What do you tell them?
It kind of always is different every time I'm having the conversation. But what it always kind of comes back to is more like what you were saying, where it's like you got to go out and fail and risk it for the biscuit. I'm not saying everybody should just go get shithouse drunk, but it's just like you gotta kind of be stupid, like get yourself in a position where like, I can't remember what the actual number is, but it's something like 60% of like guys in their 20s and in their early 30s haven't like gone up to a woman and like asked them out. I'm totally paraphrasing that. That's like napkin math, but like there's if you look that up, Austin, there's something like that where it's like a very scary number of something that I would think is incredibly simple, just to walk up to somebody and be like, hey, like, can I buy you a drink or whatever it might be.
Right.
And I think that incrementally, and this is what I'm trying to do with Black Rifle, wow, that bled in.
Yeah.
Code of the West is just quietly and consistently encourage these small actions. And that's what I mean by like live with courage, is as like the top tenet of what I'm talking about, is that like courage doesn't necessarily mean Audie Murphy levels of courage. In fact, I'd argue that most of the time it's like speak up in the meeting or go say hello to the person in the
45%.
It's 45.
Crazy.
Yeah. So I was a little high, but that's
okay.
still scary.
That's scary.
Yeah. And thank you, Austin. I think that's what I would say we need to encourage men and women to do, is just like, online life's not real life.
Yeah.
Like it has no stakes. And so we've been training ourselves. I mean like a lot of the dudes you were asking me about, the people who get mad, or that I talk to, offline and kind of like, the rare occasional goober head on Code of the West, they're not young.
Do you think they respond that way because they're regretful about how they live their life, and they're like, there's like a jealousy there? Like
I think a lot of people are just angry.
Yeah.
Like, the only people that I've had to have these conversations with, like which I've said tend to go actually really well when you slow down and are patient about it, are people like middle-aged dudes and up. Like it's the people that I would sincerely hope would be like the examples of like, that would step back and go like, oh man, this is bullshit. Like why are we getting angry on a message board on the Facebooks?
Yeah, but it's intentional anger. I think it's intentionally belt fed to them.
Yeah.
And then they just regurgitate the anger. And in our society now, everybody's a victim. Everybody has PTSD, whether you were around tier 1 dudes that experience some of the craziest things that you could experience. We deal with that all the time, but now everybody in life is diagnosed with it because dad told them no, they had to put their phone down when they were 13 years old. Now all of a sudden it's PTSD. Yeah. But I absolutely agree with you when it comes to this next generation of young men, and it starts simple. And I think it gets harder. That stat is scary. 45%, 18 to 25.
You guys hadn't heard that?
No, but it starts off even like, it's 16. My son's 16. It's like, go talk to your coach. He has to know what your mission set is and what your goals are. That communication, even if it doesn't go the way you want it to, is important just to start to establish the habit of going and talking to somebody directly.
Do you think your son could describe what yours are?
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, I think fairly, probably. I don't know, it's a good question.
Those are good conversations to have. As a parent, like I firmly believe, and I've been trying to nudge my son this direction, like you have to go create life experiences. You got to go do dumb shit. But as a parent, it's hard because I know the risk involved in doing dumb shit, right? My life was on the line many times when I was younger because I was dumb.
I'm constantly surprised that I'm alive.
Right.
Yeah.
When I turned 21, my dad said, well, I didn't think you would make it this far. That is.
I didn't think I'd make
the same conversation. Yeah.
And,
I had the same conversation.
My son to date has been very easy and calm and like, but at the same time, part of me is like, man, I want you to go out and do it. Just don't die. But do those things because that's core memories. That made me who I am today. I've done so many dumb things when I was younger and got through it.
And I think the internet or reading books, I read a lot as a kid. I read a lot now. Reading about Teddy Roosevelt is something that was beneficial to me, like to sort of model myself and think about myself in those terms of like, oh, well, nerdy kid with asthma, me, but also Roosevelt. When I was a kid, it was more like living the, what is it? Not the rigorous life, but I can't remember what he called it.
He's just such a cool dude.
But so as a kid, I'm like, okay, so, he just kind of figured it out, the asthma, all this other stuff. And then as he got older and then things happened to me, it's like, oh, so his mom and his wife die on the same day. And he's like, I'm going to go west. I'm going to go forget everything and be a cowboy in the Dakotas and not be a New Yorker and not be a politician. And then kind of get called back into it at some point. But it's like, I guess my point is that I don't think the internet or storytelling, and that's where I am an artist actually, like where I do see the power of storytelling is this ability to sort of like allow ourselves a safe way to experience dangerous, scary things. I loved Star Wars as a kid and the hero's journey and Joseph Campbell. And it's like, if you think about like that story just cycling over generations and cultures and Gilgamesh and Beowulf and Luke Skywalker, it's like there's something kind of hardwired into us about, having these tests that are applied to us where we might not survive, or if we do, we're not going to be the same. And that's kind of the point, like a trial. I think there are like
a crucible,
100%. And I think that there are, online sort of influencer pundit guys that especially, focusing on young men that talk about this stuff. But I think that part of the challenge though is that like, and this is a bit of a judgy thing, so I apologize. It's like very quickly seems like it's more like this is a way to make money on the internet, as opposed to like, hey, how do we actually try to fix this? Like, and so to me, that's the power of storytelling. And that's why it's like, I don't think AI is inherently evil. I don't think social media is inherently evil. It's just that we aren't using it consciously. We're just kind of like consuming it passively.
Well, that the message has been so diluted and mutated now. I mean, the hero's journey now is like, all right, the hero is going out with his band of of friends, and there's 2 transvestites, and
they're going to talk,
and there's every race imaginable. Like, we have to be so inclusive that it's like diluted the point of it.
Yeah.
Right. We grew up in a time where we had freaking John Rambo and John McClane, and it's like it was clear.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, these stories are it's disgusting.
Well, it's been redefined, I think.
Yeah,
you know?
and not in a good way, right? We're missing out on that masculine side of it for young men, especially.
Give you a prime example. I'm still in the military. I've got like 6 months left in the reserves to finish out my time.
He's been saying that for 3 years.
I know. I really am almost done. I had a officer, 04, lieutenant commander, discussed her having to overcome her fear of public speaking, and it was a huge accomplishment for her to be able to get up in front of her group and talk about her fear of public speaking. And I'm sitting in the back, and at the time I'd been a cop for about 10 years and did some cool things here locally, and I'm just watching going, yep, that is who would lead me. And I would die so fast.
Yeah.
Just because I would be one of the few that had any of that ability to do that.
Yeah, but but have you read Once an Eagle? It's you'll like it. It's one of Jack Carr's favorite books. Are you familiar with Jack Carr, the author?
Yeah. Terminal list.
Yeah, so he recommended it. He recommends it a lot of times in his book lists. I finally read it. Just I'm pretty fortunate that Jack's a friend, but it's like one of those things where it's like you got to like sort of like know what the lexicon is.
Yeah.
Especially as a nerd civilian. And Once an Eagle, I think I'm getting that right. Austin, could you just double check and make sure that I got the name right? It's a big book, but it's about a career soldier starting prior to World War I, and he's a non-commissioned officer going all the way through up to I believe Vietnam. And the reason why I bring it up is that I feel like having outside looking in, what you just described has sort of always been a challenge of commissioned officers and like that sort of dynamic that you're describing.
Yeah. But even then, man, I mean, dang, just looking at this society in general saying, overcoming something now is going and having a conversation with somebody else.
Or being so courageous that, you can dress like a woman.
Yes.
I don't mean to keep bringing that up, but not like,
but that's what
courage to me.
It's being mistaken, and we call them heroes. Mm-hmm. I hate the delusion of the word hero and bravery.
See, and I would agree with that for sure. And that, like I said, I'm constantly trying to advocate for taking courageous action, which a lot of times could be a small thing. To go back and then say it's brave, though. I know it sounds weird that I'd be like, I don't know that it's brave.
Right.
In the way that like Audie Murphy sitting on like a 50 caliber on top of a tank at a crossroads is like, that's brave. Right. That's like, I'm going to fucking die, but I'm just going to sit here,
save as many of my totally different.
I think that there is a certain level of bravery to like say, like to be like in a room full of 30 people in a corporation where everybody knows that there's something that no one, like there's like a mistake, or that there's something that's being missed, or there's a question that needs to be asked and no one wants to ask it. Like, I mean, it takes a bit of courage. And I think I would argue that like anything above baseline is going to take courage.
Yeah.
Like, but to put it on the same level, which is what you're talking about, I think, where it's like, hold on. Like, like tip of the hat for sure.
Right.
Like, if you're doing something that scares the shit out of you and you do it anyways, I have to say, like, even if I don't agree with the person's politics, I admire the ability to step outside of that discomfort. But to say,
and especially in today's society where this is another conversation I've had with my son, everything is designed for comfort now and ease, simplicity, and to keep you comfortable and sitting on a couch and you have to buck that. Like
no soft hands.
Yeah, exactly. You have to take advantage of opportunities to challenge and push yourself because our society is intentionally trying to reduce those opportunities.
But I think it's our job though, as if especially if we have platforms, and I'm not saying that I'm good at this, but it's something I'm trying to get better about, is like, I got to show this in some way.
You have to be the example, right?
Yeah.
That's, I mean, we talk about that even in politics, like local, I can't affect the federal government, but we can affect local politics as people that live here.
Yeah.
So we make a shining example of our city and our community for others to follow. That's the only way to do it. And I think we need to do the same thing with youths is
the youths.
The youths.
Yeah. Be the
we're such old guys.
Yeah.
Such old guys. Those kids out there.
It's to be the example, right? And I think like Code of the West, I mean, that's perfect. It's like a throwback.
Yeah. Well, but it's just my reality. I think it was a lot of our realities growing up. And what's cool, like when I do a live, for instance, which I don't do enough as I should, it's people from India and Pakistan and Germany, and like some dude sent me, like, he's like, I'm on top of Everest right now. And I'm like,
that's cool.
That's cool.
Like,
is your demographic? So this is a good question.
Yeah.
Is it a lot of younger males?
So the way the demographics tend to break down is that it's more guys that are kind of in the late 20s to early 30s, but it's not as heavily weighted as you would think just towards guys. Like I tend to show more dudes, but I mean, like, to be honest with you, like some of the most badass people that I know were like my mom, my grandma. Like, I mean, if you want to talk about pain tolerance and discomfort and like just zero patience shit kicking, the women in my family are usually a little bit more lethal.
We had my mom on the podcast. She's a pretty good example.
She's a great example.
Yeah.
Because I think it takes two to tango. I know we're talking about like, men for men or men for boys, as mentors. I think it's super important. But I also think that not just in the like moms need to be like the counterpart to the dad. I mean, like my mom like pushed me, like, and I think having that. The counterpoint, but not in the like hard soft way. I think that you need to have like the counterpoint in the like, hopefully mom and dad understand, or grandma and dad, or whoever it is, like compliment each other. But they're, how do I say, I'm trying to say, this is the first time I'm saying this out loud, so I apologize. You don't want them contradicting one another. You don't want soft and hard contradicting. It's more like, like dad might be like, go do it. I don't give a shit if it's hard or you're scared or you're uncomfortable. You'd hope that mom would be like, yeah, it is scary. You still need to go do it.
Absolutely.
The dynamic is not black and white. My wife and my relationship, right? There are times when she's much more the disciplinary.
Do you work with your wife? Is that what you keep pointing outside?
Yeah,
okay.
She's right over there.
Okay.
I'll introduce you on the way out. But like the way we've raised our kids, right? Sometimes one of us is the disciplinary and the other one's the love side coming in.
Yeah.
But it fluctuates.
Yeah, but even then I would imagine it's not like you're undercutting the other one.
No.
That's,
no.
And
it needs to be
the
a
key.
consistent message.
Yeah.
But there's a balance there. It's not always one or the other doing the one thing. And I think that's probably pretty important.
Yeah, and so I mean I think that's part of the reason. So basically the demographic is mostly weighted towards America, men in their 20s and 30s. But if you look at like the city breakdown, which I think is interesting, it's like overwhelmingly like New York, Los Angeles. Like those are the top two.
Those are the people that are craving it,
right?
That's
they're
where I'm
stuck
going
in these
with
urban
this.
environments.
They're missing it.
And their water's getting pumped
all
full of
know.
estrogen or whatever the fuck. Yeah.
It's not just the 21-year-old Gen Z guy. Like, how are you?
23.
Can he?
Yeah.
I'm just because I want to ask him a question.
Yeah.
Can you come over here?
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Heck yeah, dude. Get it dialed. Welcome to Thunderdome, buddy.
Yeah.
Austin's on camera.
Let's go.
First podcast.
Yeah,
Not
dude.
at all.
Seriously? Okay,
No
sorry.
pressure.
My bad.
No, this is perfect.
Yeah. Hi, Austin.
Hey.
Hello.
Hello, 23-year-old who we've been talking about about you basically this whole time. I'm just curious, like, how much of what we're saying is bullshit, or how much of it is actually resonating? Like, what is your experience being 23 at this point?
I think definitely with social media, like I just see it like with all my friends, like we're just like so stuck, just on our phones, like not like living out true experiences. Geez, holy.
Are you nervous?
Yeah.
Are you nervous?
I don't like being on camera.
Yeah,
Oh
no,
my
dude, you're
gosh.
doing great.
I'm like already messing up the microphone.
Good job being
There we go.
courageous.
I mean,
Yeah.
you feel a call for something, right? But you may not know what it
Absolutely.
is. Maybe you don't know what it is.
Yeah, and I feel like it's so easy, like living in that comfortability.
Yeah.
Like not like putting myself out there, like with my old job, like doing blue collar stuff. I had no plan when I quit. Like, I was just like, I hate my life. I need to do something else.
But you took the leap. You had the courage to take the leap.
Exactly.
A lot of people get stuck in that, and they get stuck in that for 30 years, and then they get to 50 or 60.
And then they buy a Corvette.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're like, fuck my life, man. What did I do? What did I do? And it's scary to take that leap. We've all taken that leap. We got out of law enforcement. We got out of a career where we had a pension and we would have been fine. But other things call to you, and it's okay to chase that. I think that's maybe young people don't know that, or they're scared to do it. I don't know. So good for you to do that.
Yeah. Also, I just realized the camera is tight on him.
Oh,
so
okay. You might not actually
I'm still behind the scenes.
Yeah. I mean, so like, what I'm mostly curious about is how do you perceive us? I mean, you can kind of. I mean, I know they pay you.
Yeah.
They pay you. So I'm not necessarily saying them in particular, but like,
Send it, bro.
as far as this, like our generation, like, because the way I see it is, as a 41-year-old dude, like everybody that was my friend is in Silicon Valley now, and they've been there for 15 years. I have people who work for. I'll just say I know people who work for people that the internet doesn't like. How about that?
Yeah.
And I don't hold myself responsible, but I'm like, I am of the generation that has like laid the groundwork for all this. So like, what's your perception of a 40-year-old, 50-year-old dude? Are we just kind of like, for the most part, like boomer idiots, or like what are your thoughts?
I don't entirely. It definitely depends on the person. I try not to like
Did
generalize.
we fail you? I guess is the best way to ask that.
No, I don't think so. Not me specifically. I definitely think there might be some situations in other people's lives. Like, honestly, I feel like my dad, like growing up, like he did a good job of like, you know, instilling the right morals and like having integrity, being honest. But I definitely think because I do like some like volunteering, like leadership stuff, and I've seen so many like younger kids that just like have not had like a positive role model or like an older figure to like look up to. And like, obviously I'm young, I'm like still learning, but like if I can just be that guy for those kids, just like to have just some sort of positive person to look up to like give a shit about their life, you know, like I want to be that. But I definitely think that it's kind of like, I don't know the actual statistics, but I feel like it's been increasing. Like there just isn't as much like male like role models for younger kids to like look up to. And that's when, you know, they're going to social media to like find all these people who, like you were saying, are just trying to make a buck. Like,
it's not real.
Do they really care? Like, you know, maybe some people do, but I think even those people that might like down the road when they're making more money, like maybe they just get more greedy and it's just only about making a dollar.
Or it just goes back to what we were saying, or I was saying earlier, where it's like, well, this is what I do.
Yeah.
This is what I've been making money.
But none of them started out that way.
Right.
Like that would be the thing that I try to impress on somebody in your generation. Like, dude, you have a work ethic and you have a talent, right? You can go places, but remember what got you into it in the first place. And have that mission set so where you go back and you are successful later, you don't lose sight of what actually got you there. And perspective, man.
Yeah.
There's nothing more I value in life than perspective. And I explain that to my son. In order to have perspective, what do you have to go do? You have to go do a job you hate. Now you have a perspective on that, right? You have to go do something that sucks. And there are no good days without shitty ones.
Yeah.
If they were all good, they wouldn't be good. You wouldn't know the difference. So it's okay to go out and do something you hate for a while, but you do it with integrity, honesty, and hard work. And you still come out of it benefiting on the other side.
Yeah.
Right?
That is the human condition. That's why we were put on this earth, is to experience all of that.
Well, to go back to that thing I was telling you about with the trail maintenance thing. So like the lead up to going to that was like I had two of my best friends die like about a month and a half apart from each other. And that was the first time that it happened to me. And it was like one of them, I helped them die. You know, my friend like had terminal cancer, which that's its old story about how we figured that out. But like literally went home on a morphine drip, and we like had a group conversation where it's like, we can't treat our friend any different. We're just going to help him die well,
That's noble.
Yeah, but it fucks you up a little bit.
Sure, but it's beautiful though. It is beautiful, but it's
didn't know it at the time.
Yeah.
And then related friend to that group just died on a train trying to come back to visit the other one. He was like a hobo basically. And so first time I'm a pallbearer, and then also the first time I'm seeing like what happens in the fallout of like people dying and young people dying, especially in that way. So I was just kind of messed up, best way I can put it. Yeah. And my friends were like, we're going to go throw you in the mountains. And it was the first time like I was able to like make my body hurt more than my head or my heart for one way of saying it. But I got up to the top of a ridge. I was following my friend Tim up, and I was struggling. And Tim's like a mountain goat. And he's like, hey man, hey buddy, you can see like Rainier from over here. And I was like, Tim, I don't give a fuck what's at the top of the ridge. Like I'm in pain. I'll get there when I get there. And I was like, if I could have hit a button to just be gone and be done, I would have done it. And got up these switchbacks, got to the top, and it was like the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. It was just, I was looking into a glacial valley for dozens of miles on a pristine blue beautiful day in the Cascades, and there's this tiny little top, there's a little rock in the middle of all these wildflowers, and I just started bawling, just started crying, like for no reason, like other than like I my brain popped a fuse. It was like dead friends, my body hurting, seeing the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen in real life, and realizing like 0.0001% of the population will ever do what was necessary just to physically walk here to see this. And I just sat down on that rock and I cried. And then Tim came over and he's like, hey man, I think you need to eat a Cliff Bar because your blood sugar is probably dropping. But the reason why I bring it up is that you don't appreciate a bed until you slept on the ground. You don't appreciate just not like, I've had times where just getting out of bed was like an accomplishment for the day. Like, cause I was so depressed and just couldn't see the way forward. And it was left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot. And going up into the mountains was like the first time I was like, I'm going to be okay. I'm not okay still, but I'm going to be okay. And I think that that thing you were talking about where it's like you want your kid to experience something, but you can't control the outcome. Like they might die, they might get hurt, they're gonna have their heart broken, whatever it's gonna be. It's like you gotta kind of have to let it go a little bit, and because there's no way to not take things for granted, I think, until they've been taken away in some way.
I mean, look at the alternative. What if you had just sat on the couch and drank every
wouldn't
night,
be here,
right? You wouldn't. It's so important to have that. When I was a new cop, I was, I was scared to see a dead body, right? So I forced myself over and over again to like get up close with a body.
I'm sure that had no effect on you.
No, not at all. I had to have that experience.
Yeah.
I forced myself to have that experience so that, I could appreciate it more. And it made me very empathetic for people, out driving around. It fucked me up a little bit too. But, but I got over that. But you know what I mean? Like Eric can relate to that, I'm sure.
Well, no, it's just one of those.
He's like, no,
I never did that.
No,
you never get close and smell them?
Oh, well, bodies. Yeah. Oh, dude, I was a county deputy, bro. Like I went to stuff where they were out there for 3 or 4 weeks, dude, and there was just there was just like a pool. But the best way to handle or to endure hard things, and this is what I try, and my son's 7 years younger than you, which is crazy to me, by the way, but the best way to endure hard things is to have experienced hard things before and then come out cleaner on the other side. Part of the reason I think you had that moment at the top is because you knew everything it took to get there.
Yeah.
When in reality, you could go online and find that same photo, and it wouldn't have meant a damn thing.
No.
Right? Like, part of it's the journey. Like, there's
all the journey.
Yeah. Going to the gym isn't about getting a six-pack. It's all the work that you put into it going to the gym, and then the feeling of accomplishment that you get having gone and accomplished something and endured it. If you're playing sports, it's not about scoring a touchdown. It's about overcoming all the adversity, go from third string to first string to go and move your way up, and change people's perception of you.
I feel like I need to add this so I don't sound crazy, but like, the same thing with the dead bodies, right? It was forcing myself out of my comfort zone to understand and to make myself uncomfortable. You have to be very intentional about it.
That's a reality of life.
Very real.
Yes.
But you have to be intentional about it. If you just wait for experiences to happen, it won't necessarily happen.
And would you have written that poem about all those crosses in Montana if you didn't?
No, right? Like I have a deep feeling and understanding of that topic.
So what are your thoughts as you stand on the precipice? And I mean, even at 23, I'm sure you've had some life. You know, you've had some bad stuff or challenging stuff happen. But like, what? Like
he works with us. He has
right, yeah, obviously, yeah. Like he's gonna have PTSD.
Yeah.
I mean, like what? Like, because I remember being 23. That was like a very specific number for me. But like, I'd already had stuff happened, and so it's like, are you? When you hear stuff online, whether it's like, you know, an influencer or like if you were someone who was just catching this podcast, like what? Like, I feel like if I were 23 at this point in time, I'd be like, everybody's full of shit. Like at this point, that would be like my assumption.
Yeah. Me personally, I try to take everything with a grain of salt. Like I understand like my algorithm is like catering to me, and anything I see where it's like trying to, you know, have some sort of agenda or like some specific viewpoint, like I'll like straight up just like look up like the counter, like, and just like kind of just like, you know, I just don't want to be like my mind is just like solely based on what's being fed to me. Like I want to like be able to come with my own opinion, come to my own conclusions. It sucks because I like need social media for my job. And
well,
I'm,
me
like,
too. I mean, yeah.
It's like
Same.
I wish, like, and honestly, maybe I can just set up some parameters to like make it a little more healthy for myself.
Do you feel like that was encouraged because you're the freshest out of school that I know? Do you feel like your education set you up for that, to go seek knowledge from alternative viewpoints, or do you think it was pretty narrow?
I think it was pretty narrow. There was definitely like a few teachers and professors, like a select couple that like that I was closer with. So maybe that helped. That like was like, you know, you like need to like, you know, seek out both sides and like, you know,
form your own opinion.
Exactly. Not like be so constrained to like, you know, taking in everything and being like, oh, I guess this is what I believe now. Like, you know,
you have to be open. Some of the best mentors in my life were people that you would never expect, like the albino one-eyed dude,
Kyle Johnson,
that taught you how to fight, right? Like you find these people, and you got to be open to that, man. If you're so stuck in judging people or whatever, you won't know when they hit your life. And man, I've learned some wild shit from people that you would not give the time of day to necessarily.
Yeah. Or if you just, I've used this phrase before, but if you just regurgitate the belt-fed narrative that's being pushed on you, you might miss the opportunity to talk to somebody that's been in it. Some of the tier one guys that have been overseas and have this perspective. And I know you guys, like you and Jenna, you guys go places, and that's going to provide some unique perspective. She's got some great perspective now coming back from Uganda. Like some of the things we take for granted here, but you'll miss the opportunity to talk to people that have literally seen it.
Yeah.
I have those arguments with my family right now. It's like, bro, I was literally on the street. Like, I know what you're telling me. Don't believe your own lying eyes, right? Listen to what this guy told me to believe over here. That's important, and good for you for going out to seek it, because that's practiced, because it's easier just to ingest what they're giving you to eat.
See, and on that note, that's why like I will also actively seek out the people that probably disagree with me on a lot of things, or I disagree with them on stuff. Like when I lived in New York, it was pretty well known that I mean I looked like a character out of a Hemingway novel. Like, you know, I own guns. I grew up in the mountains, and like, I mean, it's New York City. Like, and I was hanging out with a bunch of artists and writers. So like, we're not on the same page, but they'd be like, well, what was that like? And I'm like, kind of Huckleberry Finn, you know, you know, I'd go swing off of a rope swing in Banks that killed a kid. You know, it's like, I learned from them. They learned from me. Like, and I actually really think that is sort of the fail-safe, especially of America. Like, is that like, you don't want one group of people constantly just doing their thing. Like, you need to have the checks and balances. You need to, whether you truly think that you're right or wrong, like maybe you got that, but the guy who's going to come up behind you in the party or whatever it might be, might just be the guy who's the influencer who's just like, well, I like power. Like, and this is one way to do it. Like I want someone to kind of like walk in sometimes, even if I completely disagree with them, for the right reason, I should say. Like, if you're using your brain and you're like, hey, here's my viewpoint, totally disagrees, like, cool, let's have a conversation. Like, it's what is frightening to me, and to go back to what you're saying about the algorithm, is just that, and actually what all of us are saying is that, like, when it becomes like a talking point or like just a thing coming down a conveyor belt, there is no conversation to be had, because at that point it's just like rote memorization. And that's my big issue with how I was, I think school was, even for my generation, is that, like, we're not optimizing for problem solving. We're optimizing to pass tests here.
Yes.
And that's been that way for a long time.
Or like, standardized testing.
Yeah. I mean, there's people talking about that in the 60s even.
Yeah.
Like, and so I think for me, like, I also think that I don't think that people like you are going to, I think you're always being an anomaly. Like, I think for the most part, everybody's like, yeah, hey, it's cool. Like, I'm going to go with the flow. Like, I don't want to stand out from the crowd. Like, every generation of human beings, there's a survival mechanism to stay with the group.
Right.
And then just like honeybees, there's like certain bees that go out and scout for pollen. Sometimes they come back with a cool spot, and then a lot of times they just die.
Yeah.
Because they went out and they didn't find anything, they kept going. You don't want an entire colony of bees that do that.
Right.
You want to have some weird function built in where it's like, yeah, maybe like 1 in 100 go out and do that. And I think that maybe I'm like one of those bees. Maybe we're all like one of those bees, and it's like, that's just okay. That's what you do. Like, not all of us are the same. We don't need to perform the same function, but some of us kind of are going to have to be in uncomfortable spaces where we're the ones kind of going like, hey, maybe we go over here.
Yeah.
And then everybody's like, shut the fuck up. And it's like, oh, well, there's pollen. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And it's going to be even more important now, just because I think the world didn't get any easier. I was going to say that's not the truth. It got more complicated, but it got simplified.
It was not easy 100 years ago.
No, absolutely not. But right now you're having to navigate it, because you're going to have to actively go out there and seek those opportunities to challenge and
it's
push
complex.
yourself. Yeah, because everything has gotten more for the ease of the user or comfort.
See, but you were raised in complexity.
Yeah.
We were raised in a Steven Spielberg movie.
Yeah.
Like, for real though. Like, I mean, like, we're hardwired for an analog world.
Yeah.
Like, he emerged in one that is not. So I would argue that, like, that's why I go back to the Gen Z thing a lot, where it's like, I'm going to probably trust Gen Z on a lot of stuff more moving forward.
Yeah, especially with AI. I've noticed, and I'm curious to get your take. I've noticed there seems to be a bit of a kick away from AI from your generation, where it's like, nah, I really don't like that. I'd more crave, like, now, and you're in the creative sphere, right, where you actually want to create it yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think especially being in the creative sphere, like, I think that like AI definitely has its place, but it's, I think so many people like just like keep walking past like the line of like just like making like, I don't know, like for some things in my work, like AI super helpful, like bouncing off ideas, but like not solely relying on ChatGPT to like come up with different ideas, because then it's like I'm not using my brain at all. I'm not being creative.
The muse can't tap in.
Well, it's a different version of standardized tests,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same where everybody is.
Yeah, or like easing my like workflow, but yeah, like totally. Even like my friends, like my roommates, like we'll have conversations. Like I am not a huge fan of AI, and I could definitely see AI creeping more into my work and like just taking it over. Yeah. And please don't fire me.
But it's so efficient, it becomes a tool. But it's a powerful tool. Mm-hmm. But you don't want to lose that creative part. I even think about you and your buddy sitting around like there's some good civil discourse, right? Like that is a foundational part of our society is civil discourse. How many people are over there now? How do I beat my buddy in an argument when he's talking about state standardized testing? And, blah blah. Like that's what it's going to become, though. And I do see from your generation, though, it's cool to see some pushback. Mm-hmm. It's like, no, what I value is going out free thinking. And I think that will be the path forward. Who will struggle, I think, is our generation.
Yeah,
because we've had to work so hard to do that.
My dad, when like I love my dad, like, but when Facebook and texting became a thing, he's just like, oh, bullshit. Like, I mean, what? You can't go talk to somebody in person or anything.
Yeah.
Guess who loves sitting on the couch watching reels now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, there's
Like,
very susceptible
and
to
that's and so I've gone. There's not enough time left for this, but like I've gone way down the AI rabbit hole just because I'm like, I want to understand what's about ready to happen, because I think what's going to happen partly is there's going to be a lot of performative outrage like there was 15 years ago. And then everybody's just going to be plugged into the matrix in like 5 years.
Yeah.
And that's my concern.
Yeah, same. And I think we just have to continue to value actual, real human interaction. And I've seen some deterioration in relationships. I think it's going to mean like some of your childhood best friends. I still have childhood best friends because we were out until freaking dark, throwing rocks at cars, getting in trouble, knocking down beehives, getting shit stung out of us, jumping in. Like,
I'm still doing that.
Yeah, that's what we do, though.
You stopped?
But that is the fabric of a tight relationship. And I just wonder how many of those relationships will survive the test.
You want to go down a dark rabbit hole? Get on Reddit and look at all the people who are already in relationships with AI.
I don't want to. I can't do it, dude.
I hate to cut it off, boys, but you got to.
Yeah, so that was Code of the West.
Yeah.
Like 90 minutes for me to talk for 5 minutes about it.
It's beautiful. This leaves me wanting more, which is good.
Yes.
So, I mean, we'll just have you back. I know where to
Yeah,
find you.
no, that's fun. Yeah, you should have him on more often.
Yeah.
I'll try not to burp into the mic.
And be on camera.
That's my bad.
Lean in so
Yes.
people can actually see your
Actually, it's
face.
perfect. So when he's yelling at me about where to sit and not hitting stuff, now you know.
Oh
dude.
yeah, I got on here instantly, hit the mic.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
See?
It's hard.
It's good.
So
A little more grace.
Just to cap off my end, I think the most, you were asking like how can we help younger people, especially younger men, have conversations with them, you know? And like, I know that you guys are doing it with your kids and stuff, but it's like, I think even just modeling what a conversation between a middle-aged dude and a 23-year-old is important. That's something that I want to do more often. You know, I just haven't figured out my lane on the podcast stuff yet. But I don't know what your closing thoughts are, but like as far as what might benefit the internet or people to just see conversations like this play out.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's important to have the perspective from like the older generations. Instilling like wisdom and like their like perspective on life on like, you know, younger kids, and like I don't know, like if I need advice on a specific thing, I'm not like always going to like my peers, like my best friends. Like I'm going to like my dad or like some of my older mentors, because they have that life experience. But I don't think a lot of people do that. And I'm not trying to like give myself a pat on the back, but
Give you your
thank
flowers.
Thank you.
By the
Guys.
way, bro.
But yeah, I think it's super important to have like these conversations.
So you need to get your friends to listen to this. You
Exactly.
you have the benefit. You get to sit over there and hear a lot of these cool conversations.
Yeah.
We need the younger folks, and maybe this is a good way to ingest that information is through podcasts.
Well, and honestly, when we're talking about the world that you're living in from your perspective and your generation, we're just assuming.
That's why I was like, oh shit, we've been talking about this for like 50 minutes, and he's over in the corner, and I'm like, this is awkward.
Good call.
And who knows if we're applying the right or correct perception of what it is from your world? Because I didn't grow up. I tell that to my son all the time. And I used to teach in high school. I talk about drugs all the time, right? I'd say, look, you guys are growing up in a different world than I did. So if your parents are out there telling you they understand because they smoked weed in high school, they don't. They can't. It's a different animal now.
Yeah.
It's a totally different landscape. So what you're saying is absolutely correct. We're making a lot of assumptions about what the landscape is, and we're applying principles that we learned from our generation.
Which can still transfer, and that is the point of Code of the West.
Absolutely.
Which is that there is still like frontier wisdom, old school wisdom actually still works as an operating system, but you have to understand it contextually. Like, you know, no soft hands, talking less says more. That applies still to this day.
Yeah.
It's just that I would say talking less says more is translating to like, okay, don't go out and just do hot takes on Instagram or TikTok. Go out, live, be in conversations, like exist.
Yes.
You know? So yeah, I know we gotta go.
No, but I'll tell you, man, like what you're saying, I don't know if you like this correlation or not, but what it sounds to me is frontier stoicism.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
that
I mean,
too.
like I would say, like, I mean, when I sat down, because I wrote an actual epistemology. There's a book, a 200-page Code of the West book, and it's like a distillation of Stoicism and Austrian economics and Randian objectivism. Like, but then also like there's Dallas principles. There's just, it's like, it was me sitting down and going like, how does my brain work? How did I sort all this stuff out? How did I structure it in a way that makes sense to me to basically just explain what was implicit for my dad and my grandpa and these, you know, crazy road pirate truckers that I grew up with. Like, cause you know, stuff that our grandpas or our dads said, like, you know, like you got time to lean, you got time to clean. If you didn't grow up that way, you don't know how many layers there are underneath that, like what that means. You just hear it as sort of like a catechism, and you're like, oh yeah, okay, whatever. Like, you know, you either get it or you don't. But if you didn't grow up that way, you might not like realize that like what the implication of that is that, hey, if you're standing here and you're not doing anything, and other people are, or you're getting paid, or both, like pick a broom up. You know,
yes.
You know, like, you know,
metaphorically speaking,
yeah,
maybe even.
Yeah. So I'm like basically just unpacking those sorts of things, and I think that Stoicism is a large part about that. You know, Marcus Aurelius, obviously. Like, I just, again, not saying names, I don't like how people will weaponize or take something and be like, I'm the expert in Stoicism now. Let me tell you how to apply it. It's more like, hey, take it or leave it. Here's what Grandpa said. Here's how I used it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like the idea of like, you know, using a subject matter expert or a hot take name to be like, you know, Marcus Aurelius said this, and this is how I interpret it. Therefore, Marcus Aurelius agrees with me.
Yes. Well, it's just like what he said. You're not telling them how to apply it.
No.
You got to go find that.
Yeah.
But you expose them to it.
Yeah.
Right?
But, you just uncovered my entire thesis with Code of the West, which is like, I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm just going to show you in some way through a story, like, or a remembrance of my part, like, here's what happened.
Yeah.
Like, take it or leave it. That's why I have had friends who are like, you got to tell people how to vote, how to think. And it's like, I'm trying to show people how to think for themselves. The last thing the first thing that would make me a hypocrite is to tell somebody exactly what they should do.
Yep. Our nonprofit is that very much.
Yep.
We're just going to give you the raw data, and what you guys do with it is up to you.
Yeah.
Right? Apply your own set of principles. Apply your objective approach from what you've learned.
Build your system. Build your code.
Absolutely.
Well,
no,
that was amazing.
That was awesome.
Chris Hunt,
Cheers.
Code of the West. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thanks, man.
The Code of the
Nice
West.
work,
You'll
Austin.
be back.
Look
Thank
at
you.
you go.
Thank you.
We got a new one.
Later.
Well,